Hello and welcome to Cisco Center of Excellence at NHCE to the course Routing and Switching 2. The prerequisites for this course is Routing and Switching 1 course. So we are going to look at the configuration of Virtual Local Area Network VLANs, and we are going to configure it using VTP, VLAN Trunking Protocol and Dynamic Trunking Protocol. We can also manually configure VLANs on every switch, but we would prefer VTP mode because when we can configure one switch as a server and all other as client within the same VTP domain. These clients can get the VLAN information from the server switch rather than manually going to each and every switch and configuring VLAN separately. So this is the topology we are going to have, and we are going to configure S0 switch as server with the domain name Cisco and password CCNA, and switch 1 and 2 will be the client with the domain name Cisco and password CCNA. See, the domain name needs to be same and password also needs to be same if the client switches want to receive advertisements regarding the VLANs from the server. If the domain name mismatches or password mismatches, it will not receive any information from server. Then we can configure VLANs on the server, only on the server switch, need not do it on switch 1 and 2 manually. Automatically the information will be received, but it will be received only if the links between the switches are trunking. Then we will configure routing on multi-layer switch or the router. We are going to look at router and I will discuss the commands for multi-layer switch. Also, we will be assigning the switch ports on the switches 1 and 2 from 5 to 10 will belong to VLAN 10 and 11 to 20 we will make it available for VLAN 20. So we will go to the configuration and start. So there are two VLANs that we will configure, VLAN 10 and 20 with the names CSE and ECE. So we will go to the switch 0 and here we should make it as VTP mode server. By default the modes are mode is server. Still we will do it VTP mode server, right? And then we will say VTP domain, we will set it to Cisco, and then VTP password we will set as CCNA, right? After that you can configure the two VLANs on the switch 0. The name is ECE, and let's say we have another VLAN on floor 2. I'm giving it name VLAN 20, name CSE, and exit. Here if I go to switch 1, and here also I should do VTP mode client. So here it has to be client and VTP domain should be Cisco. Same VTP domain name should be there and VTP password should be same CCNA. It is case sensitive, so please be careful. If you have given in capital, then other switches also you should give it capital. Enable configure T, and here also we will make it as client. VTP mode client you have to give, and then you have to say VTP password and you have to give Cisco, and sorry, VTP password I have given wrong, it has to be CCNA, and VTP domain should be Cisco, right? So now they should be able to receive the VLAN information, but they will not receive the information till the links which are connecting the switches are trunking. This as per the dynamic trunking protocol. Now how can we trunk it? Looking at this table we can observe when with the combination of dynamic auto we get access. With the combination of dynamic desirable dynamic auto we will get trunk. With the combination of trunk and dynamic auto we will get trunk. With access and dynamic auto it will be access. So by default the ports are in auto mode. Okay, and now dynamic desirable and both ends dynamic desirable trunking. One end trunk, other dynamic desirable, it is trunk. So we have to refer this table and get the trunking done. So we are taking one combination trunk. We will be taking trunk combination. Both ends will trunk. You can also use one end dynamic desirable, other as trunk, or both ends dynamic desirable, and so on. So referring this table, you can create. So, or whatever is given in the question you can do. So we have connected F0 by 1 and also F0 by 2. So what I will do, I'll take the int range F0 by 1 to 2 on switch 0, because both are connected, one connected to switch 1, other to switch 2, and say switch port mode trunk. And you can do no shutdown. Similarly, I told you the other end also we are going to make it trunk. So int here it is connected using F0 by 1, and I will write switch mode trunk. Here if you want to use, you can use dynamic desirable. So int F0 by 2 switch port mode dynamic desirable. So we can check also. Control Z if you want to check show int trunk. You can check whether it is trunking or not. So port F0 by 2 is trunking, and the mode that we have set is desirable. Here if on switch 0 you will check, Control Z, show int trunk. So you can see F0 by 2 is on trunking and F0 by 1 both are trunking, right? So now we'll go to configure T. Now already we have set up the VLANs. Let us check whether the VLAN information has been received. Show VLAN brief. We can see the both VLAN 10 and 20 have been received. Similarly here also VLAN 10 and 20 would have been received. Now we also need to check show VTP status. If you want, you can do show VTP status and check. See here, configuration revision number indicates the advertisement number, how many times the server has sent the advertisement and whether it has received the latest one. So the configuration number, revision number should be same on server switch as well as client switches. That will indicate whether they are getting the advertisements or not. If they are not getting the advertisements, this revision number will be 0 or lesser than the 1 at the switch 0. Here the mode is client, here domain name is Cisco. You can verify these things. Next is that the switch ports that we have connected to the end devices should be made access, and we have to map them to the correct VLANs. So for that we will see, we have been given that 5 to 10 belongs to VLAN 10. So 5 to 10 belongs to VLAN 10 and 11 to 20 belongs to VLAN 20. So we will do the same thing. We will say int range 5 to 10 F0 by 5 to 10 belongs to switch port. First we have to set the mode access, switch port mode access, and we have to say switch port access VLAN 10. Similarly, and you can do no shutdown. Similarly, we will do for the next range, that is 11 to 20. So int range 11 to 20, same thing, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN, and this ports will belong to VLAN 20. This indicates that if you connect any PC onto switch 1 with the interface here on the switch between the range 5 to 10, then that PC will belong to VLAN 10. And if you connect any PC within the range of fast Ethernet 11 to 20, then it will belong to VLAN 20. Between 5 to 10, it belongs to VLAN 10. Between 11 to 20, it belongs to VLAN 20. Similarly, on switch 2 also we have already configured, and to check this, we can go to show VLAN brief and see 10 VLAN name ECE 5 to 10 belongs to VLAN 10 and 20 belongs, for 20 we have 11 to 20, right? Same way how we have done on switch 1, you can do on switch 2 also, and you will get the same output. Now after you have done this, if you try pinging between the same VLAN PCs, so now VLAN, what we are going to take here is, we are considering that VLAN 10 is network 192.168.10.0 network, and we are saying that VLAN 20 is 192.168.20.0/24 network. So these two networks are there that we are taking for VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. So this should come within that network. PC0 because it belongs to VLAN 10, and PC1 IP address should be within 20. So we have already configured the IP addresses, which the configuration of IP addresses we have seen in routing switching 1 course. So here we have given accordingly. After you have configured this much, you will be able to ping between PCs of same VLAN. So I say that PC1 and PC2 belongs to same VLAN, and we can check whether they are pinging. So PC0 and PC2 are pinging, but we cannot ping different VLANs. Why? Because for different networks we need a layer 3 device, which is a router, network device. So we need to configure router now for networking. See, now we have two VLANs. This router G0x0 can carry the traffic of either VLAN 10 or VLAN 20. So we can have two interfaces connected to switch 0, one to carry the network traffic of VLAN 10, another to carry the network traffic of VLAN 20. But if we have more number of VLANs, then we cannot have that many numbers of interfaces. That is the restriction. So what we will do is, we can have a router on stick configuration where we have a single router with a single interface connected to switch 0, and here we can create sub interfaces of this interface for each VLAN. So if I have 5 VLANs, I can create 5 sub interfaces on G0x0, one for each VLAN. So here, since we have 2, I will create 2 sub interfaces. Enable configure T, and here I will write int G0x0. First we'll do no shutdown, and then we are going to exit, and then we are going to write int G0x0 dot 10, the first partition I am doing, and I'll say I'll activate the encapsulation, that is IEEE 802.1q protocol. Okay, so .1q, and I'll say to which VLAN it belongs. It belongs to VLAN 10, and the IP address that I will give is 192.168.10.1, the same way how we configured the G0x0 interface on the routers. Only thing is, here we are giving to the sub interface. Similarly, now we will create another sub interface, and this sub interface belongs to VLAN 20, and then we will give the IP address, that is 20.1. so it belongs to the same network that we have chosen, right? Now what we will do is, on PC0 we have to ensure, since it belongs to VLAN 10, so the default gateway will be the IP address that we have given to the sub interface G0/0.10, that is the one which belongs to 10 VLAN. Similarly, for PC2, which belongs to VLAN 20, the default gateway should be the sub interface that belongs to, should be the IP address of sub interface that belongs to VLAN 20. Now if you will try to ping between two different VLANs, it will be successful. The first packet may fail. We will give it is successful. PC0, PC1, it is successful. So this is how we configure VLAN. Instead of router, we could have also used a multi-layer switch over here. I'll just show you how it looks like. We could have used a multi-layer switch and connect the interface. Remember, this multi-layer switch will act as a router also and as a switch also. As a router, we are going to configure routing on it, and as a switch, we have to make it as a client of switch 0 so that it can receive the VLAN information. Because on a switch, there we don't have the interface. Like we need to configure, we cannot give the IP address to the interface. Instead, we have to use the switch virtual interface to assign the IP address, which is your VLANs. By default, on all switches there is VLAN 1. So you remember in routing switching 1 course also we have seen that VLAN 1, we give int VLAN 1 and assign the IP address. We cannot assign IP address to int f0 by 1 on switches. So here if you see the multi-layer switch, if we have to do, these are the commands. You have to first enable IP routing. Why we need to enable? Because we have to configure it as a router also. So we are activating that. And then int G0 by 1, we will enable the trunking protocol, switch port trunk encapsulation.1q, switch port mode trunk, exit. Then we, as a switch, we have to make it client of the same domain and same password so that it can receive the VLAN information. And then to the VLANs, that is to the SVIs, we are assigning the IP address. So to int VLAN 10 we are assigning the IP address 10.1, and to 20 we are assigning 20.1. And then again, instead of router, if we have used multi-layer switch, we will be able to ping between different VLAN systems. So this is all about virtual LANs. For any doubts, you can contact me at er.divyasharma@gmail.com.